Losanda, Shala, Sowan, De, Meme, Seve, De, Jende, Time, Kembe, Wangbo, Jambe, Devo, Mali, Jomze, Kebe, Zoje, Zonga, Losanda, Sowan, De, Bande, Save, Lama, Rembo, Taso, Chivura, Benden, Denjo, Kade, Chembe, Gone, Ches, Koson, Toji, Wedo, Zendo, Banden, Save, Lama, Rembo, Taso, Ningara, Benden, Denjo, Kade, Chembe, Gone, Cheso, Chodan, Temo, Wedo, Banden, Save, Lama, Rembo, Tazo, Ningara, Benden, Denjo, Kade, Chembe, Changju, Ningbe, Ban, Denba, Yo, Masan, Jume, Shera, Baru, Maje, Manga, Namge, Ngobo, So, Rani, Deson, Gebe, Yum, Chanze, Lo, Dean, Ta, Gade, Bara, Sam, Gade, Bode, So, Ha, Dean, Ta, Gade, Bara, Sam, Gade, Dean, Ta, Gade, Bara, Sam, Gere, Dongda, Yajo, Jewa, Nebe, Gendan, Dewa, Pemba, Dushe, Pezon, Tojo, Taji, Yo, Sa, Shembe, Jo, Let me remind all of ourselves to take a moment and cultivate the highest form of motivation. We call it Bodhisattva motivation, or the altruistic aspiration seeking complete enlightenment for the sake of all other sentient beings. So with that, this contrived bodhicitta motivation, we should it in this discourse. So where we left off in this commentary is, looking at, Chitta Martrin's, how should I say, evidence or reasoning they provide to establish that there is such thing as self-cognition, rangri, or self-knower, or a perception. Those of you who have this English translation of the commentary here is titled as The Profound Reality of Interdependence. We are on page 111. So as Geshe explained, of course, on that page you also see citation from compendium of epistemology. In other words, I translate usually as treatise on valid cognitions, Namdal, Brahmana Vartika, right? And as Geshe explained, that among number of reasons, that they provide to establish self-cognition or self-awareness, translated here, Rangrik, the Tibetan word, self-knower, memory, that recollection, Tenpa, is if you will, the primary evidence. They bring forth a reasoning to establish that there is such thing as self-cognition of an experience of seeing blue, right? Having seen blue in the past. But the way, in a logical sense, they provide is that, there has to be a self-knower of that experience, cognitive experience of seeing blue, right? They avoided the word use of directly saying there has to be self-knower, because opponents, right, may right away object like, well, I don't accept self-knower, so don't bring that in. But in reality, it comes to the same thing, right? That which knows the cognitive experience of having seen blue, that's what the self-knower is. And so that exists because one can recollect, one can remember, right? That memory kicks in and we can remember that. So that's how they use memory, Tenpa, or recollection as a reasoning or evidence to establish self-cognition. Ina di nyongen ki hakogen ki rangri scores, rangri mena kachikurs.
Ko rangri kono ma ya ti nyongen sama shenda chi ka do shida ya.
No.
Ko shasa me sha do ro.
No.
Shasa kono nyongo reso.
So the proponents of, or the advocates of Rangrik, self-cognition or self-knower, Rangrik, they say that, for example, if you have never seen, for example, color blue, then you cannot recall it, right? Because, seeing blue has to precede that recollection. So in the same way, they said, if you have never cognitively experienced blue, then there's, you cannot recollect it, right? So they kind of draw parallel, between those, two things. So for them, they think that there has to be self-knower of the cognitive experience of having seen blue, otherwise how can you remember it, if you need to find another valid cognition to establish, right, that cognitive experience of having seen blue, then that cognitive also need another valid cognition. So where do we end up, isn't it? It's just like endless, like a minutiae thing. You just keep going. There is no end to that. So that's not possible. So therefore, they said there is such thing as self-cognition or self-knower. Remember, we talked about this before, that the cognition has these two, so to speak, focus or aspects. So one is externally focused, that's called other focus, right, or other experience. Okay. One is internally focused on its subjective aspect experience. So the self-knower, Rangri, self-cognition is that which focuses within, right, not, without, but that is not a very, some other kind of valid cognition, right? That is, so that's how they propound or advocate for the existence of Rangri, self-cognition.
我的这个人类是要去加上，要得用个现在家人，一个通面上我现在没有想过了吧？
No.
我是可能用过呀，我是有些得想过的，第一次。
So the cognitive experience of having seen blue, has the self-knower that understands that experience. Otherwise, if you have to find another cognition to establish that, then that cognition would require another cognition to establish that, and that would require another cognition. Then it would be like an endless, enterprise, right? That's not, feasible.
可能嘛是有些现在要得了，有些现在都是呢，有些我现在没有想过，都没想过吧？
No.
我觉得这可以让人有个意识都定不起来的。
No, so in their, viewpoint, that would be that infinite kind of regress there, isn't it? If we need to find another valid cognition to establish the cognitive experience of having seen blue, then we need another valid cognition to establish the cognitive experience of that one, and so that becomes an infinite regress, and there would be no end to that. So there's no need for that, because there is such thing as self-knower, which is not a different valid cognition apart from that, and so this is their main sort of argumentation or their contention.
现在我这里当可能用过这些的，过信用的些个么用上下过这些，信用现在都没下过这些，我这他都些。我这没记得吧，起码让年龄就希望俺们送到些娘子娘个，希望这样，说有康那样，没办法，台湾就是现在起码希望用样，现在用些下，你我这没可能。 有我不没办法做，这样用在这个上先做的，小弟都没得过这些。俺们送走现在娘子娘那起码那我不说有康那样没办法，台湾就是，我但可能嘛，现在在嘛就那，现在让这些一把子有我不没办法他个意思，我觉得。那可能这有些的让用嘛下去，先用这些呢，这样先用这些呢，通没得是吧？我但可能个，你们现在就跑那样，住院的呢，我这个我们没是现在跑院呢，我们这边是一家没有查住的，现在个有些的我们上可能看那个这个。 我不让个上去下个这么。
啊，你们我们那么下个嘛是个。
哦，希望我是比快了老下个嘛是个这个。
啊嘞，看囊大是没为呢。
是囊大是那就是让人是个。
老。
现在生修有我不是不是。
想把那个有想把下这个是。
哦，这是个。
啊嘞，这破瓦没把设计当在了个。
那。
这破嘛破，可是破瓦没把这个提到的，有些了破瓦没是当在的。
哦，有些破瓦没把是当。 可能是那我吃肉有我把泡嘛是不是？
啊，来了是。
我这泡是那是有人肉吧是吧？泡是那。
啊来。
是吧？
是。
我这是个。
吃肉有的我不了。
泡是那，泡是肉吧是吧？
来了吧？
现在可能就看吃的没啥没，可能的嘛现在下过呢。你我这没给的有什么我不用嘛？
啊，用嘛是了，是。So basically, Geshe has repeated the same thing and added a little bit there, which is according to those who contend that there has to be self-knower or self-cognition Rangri, and they said it does not require some other cognition to establish it. And if that were the case, then that would be infinite regress, as I said. That cognition would need something else, and so we don't, contend that is required, because the self-knower is, focused on the internal experience itself, and So in the case of cognitive experience of having seen a blue, the self-knower is focused on that experience, and it's not a very, how should I say, a different kind of valid cognition, right? It is, how to say, I don't want to say the same, right? It is kind of right there. So that is not what they call on top of page 111. When you think in terms of experience, cognitive, there is two aspects. One is rangyong, self-experience. The other is the other experience. Self-knower has this self-experience, not other experience. It's not focused on any other object, so to speak, isn't it? And if it were to focus on any other object, then that self-knower will not be able to cognize the visual perception of blue, right? Visual perception of blue sees blue, right? If the self-knower is focused on some other thing, then it cannot, right, have that, how should I say, it cannot discern the visual perception of blue. Okay.
Yeah. 당고모지 조지 미기직시 영고지 미기지 미기니 향는 애들 건사지 남기 드마타도 가서 고모지 미기지고 야 니타도 그러와 세자 고지 미기고 뉴지디 고지 미기고 뉴자이 양한테 뉴게 현다셔는 고지 미기데 니셔고라다 고모 뉴게지게 그런 뉴게 니 로샤이는 근데 미기니 샤도 그러와
문제 미시 프랑스
뭐 통과로 다 코통고 양 문제 미시 해다지
알려 잡으자 올라로 no and this seven क्यों कर सके
ला
this seven क्यों कर लाओ समझदा
대전 제가 투투다오다 양 기대 뉴게 해다샤로 대전 통해서 타오다 문제 미시 셔나 대뉴게 문제 미시 양 대뉴게 셔나 아네 이 무슨 요샤그로
마타다겐 디지 소사 가사 간사치 큐라 가사 디 카라게 시아바 제타데 용마 직송면다
다 카샤네 시와데다 인셔리스다
알코니 제타데
가사 인셔 차고부터 요마와 메기나 비데지 인지 말와 지금 제요 This is like tied up to the same contention there, where we said, where they say those who contain self-cognition or self-knower, that we do not require other perception to establish, right, the cognitive experience of having seen blue. And if that were required, then that would be infinite regress, right? We need another one to establish that, and then that it just goes on, right? So in which case, it would be like, say, a person looking who has this visual perception of blue. That person would end up having two visual perceptions of a blue. Okay, the visual perception, they're seeing blue, and then the visual perception, another visual perception of blue. That sees what it sees. So those two. It is impossible for two perception of the same kind, right, to exist in a person. So that's what we find stated on top of page, I think 111, right? It's impossible for a person to have, okay, let me rephrase it, have two substantially different visual perceptions of a blue, right, existing. Okay, let me repeat that, right? It's impossible for a person to have two substantially different visual perceptions of a blue. Right. What the Karsa Shima the Hina Dedana Muzi Miki Chikadi Miki Chikadi Java, you hear me boy, Jimmy the Hina, Dedana Kansa Chikdula, Mekinahi. Rikti batadiwa ni tuju jewa juri junaya mirikde doli simjena naba shiwa ni yuchik baute rere o shi so se Make Namshi, Namshi, go get it, make the chip of the make the need of Yamara. What is what I
No, so,
you just said?
lovely. So what it really means is that when we experience or generate, if we generate a visual perception of something, let's say blue, right? There's only one visual perception seeing blue. It's impossible for two visual perceptions of blue simultaneously, right, occurring or arising.
Well, that the wrong do it of the Terry. That Shiva wrong goes to Mumaiva, Shiva, some say. Jubja Gova, Jubja Gova, wrong major chamber Jesulos. That the guy, that Karsa, wrong goes to the Mumaiva, some Jubja Gova, run Karat. Jubje se tempete goshe, Rongu Raru Beji Tebacha Mingos. In the Raru Mena, Gargo Madonna in Tebacha Yama, Takana Yunzi Miki Temalangan, Uzi Miki, Nuzi Marona, Jul Guzi Miki Tengamaras. And the Tebacha, Nuzi would draw Mars, pets about she.
I don't know. So now we are on page 112. Now we have talked about the third point, which is basically how do the advocates or the proponents of self-cognition Rangrig, right, establish that there has to be such a thing as self-knower, right? So now the number 4 is Prasangika's, how should I say, counter-argument against that or refutation of that. So the number 4 is called the unique way of refuting self-awareness or self-knower or self-cognition. Prasangika's unique way of doing that. Now, this has 3 parts, if you will, right? So, number 1 is, refuting the existence of or refuting the self-cognition itself, 1, right? The second one is refuting the means by which self-cognition is established. Okay? And the number 3 is that without need for self-cognition, it is possible to have memory or recollection, right? And that's what Prasangika says. So there are 3 things, right? They want to bring up. Number 1, they refute self-cognition, right? There's no such thing, right, as self-cognition. Number 2 is refuting the means by which the self-cognition is established. And number 3 is that without a need for self-cognition, right, it is possible to have memory or recollection. So those are the parts of Prasangika's response to or counter-argument against the proponents of self-cognition.
Riti Shida Rang Measure, so much that ring a rang America. Jim Shida Zaya, Runi Rang Chava Mission, Meshida Zaya Rang Ramizo, Hindetala, Rijariji, Rijariji, so Tadi the Madrochin. Tamidi Hindu La Shiba. Rangxin Jie Juna, Shaji Lesun Tangxi, Sigdite, Jung, Juguatandeli Hibi Shir, Zawayama, Simulia Latin Kursa, Simulia the Shawachik Membe, Tingi Kaden Zeba Rigmai, Hiesonga, Shundea, Jigden Kenny, Gobu Jang Hiesong Sauce. That Condi get it, Joribia Cody, Omajiva Gaza Song Jassi, Junju Gaza Song Hung Yoris. Say that better with the Gibbsation with the social was so much that some more to Morris, or take better get the question. Says that Shiva Kora said your Morris, or the better you don't reason.
So the first point is refuting, what's established meaning self-cognition or self-knower itself, right? Which the proponents they established it, right? So refuting that, and so they give a number of interesting examples, right? to refute self-know or self-cognition, which you find in the middle of this passage, where it says, for example, no matter how sharp a knife is, it cannot cut itself. Right? That's one example. No matter how long a finger is, it cannot point to itself. Right? No matter how physically fit or agile a person is, they cannot ride over their own shoulders. Okay? No matter how intense or hot the fire is, it cannot burn itself. Right? So these are the examples, to illustrate that self-cognition, is not feasible. In other words, right? So, as Kisla said, there are a number of texts where self-cognition is, refuted or not accepted. For example, in Bodhisattva Shantidev's Guide to Bodhisattva Way of Life, right? Jinju. And then also Acharya Chandrakirti's Madhyamik Avatar, Supplement to the Middle Way.
God is good. Ranged he she's all and she will show maybe Chajik to say. Tonga the Munzi here, Tonga the Munzi question, and Shawada Shay Lenin, Kaka Shagrova, Chipcharwa. Tonga the Tonga Jane.
I'll let you know.
Oh, this Sajitadi Yamara. What is that do so?
No. Okay. Because Rangri, you have not charged to do so. Rangri, you have pointed and charged to take yours. Rangri, you have wanted to
use it and charged to do so. Tanzania go get Pashi.
I'll just keep the side. Which side we're talking about this? If one were to assert there is self-knower or apperception or self-cognition Rangri, then the perceiver and perceived they just become one. They cannot they cannot be different, right? For example, the visual perception seeing below, visual perception is the perceiver, is the subjective. Below is the object, isn't it? So there are two things, right? So it's the visual perception, engaging with the object that is like perceiving it, isn't it? So if they were self-knower, then these two things cannot be two; they just will become one. The visual perception and the below, will become identical, so to speak.
Tanyipani Cheshak Chembeta Rangi Druba Mededi. The Mededi Rangi Rangi Juve Chembatas Juna. That's one, they Rangi Yuba Juve, Tayanda Mayinde, Rangi Mojava, Shendi, the Chemba Yankosa Mojavishis. So that Druba Drujata Sungba, Tongyode, Dramitaba Druba Las, Michis in the Tasko Shinoshi, Tedan Jubale, Kede, Shidi Chambali Chona, Motor Druba says Jovaye, Motor the Druba Shwami, Sheso, Jidenji, Tanya Young to Shenebe, Tasko Nene, there. Rori Yuva Dribi, Tayanda Mind. Tito Temple in the Rori Chap Majavi said that Ben Shuyuna, Shushida, Mayon Mishi Majavishino, she Jubaran really song de Mama Las, Mojavijon, Shima Las, Majavijon Yodo, Chigi Tembe Tagi. Tani Shevatar Ronyo the Hin Mangi Bishir, there Benga Tartan Jes, Nua Yeva Choja, Ronyo the Shinyo Kaya Yeva Migu Midede, Ben Benga Tabatanji, Jawa Yejan, Dagja the Shinyo Kaya Midebata, Tanya the Marmes Sever on Hidden Deja. rang sewa the hinge sewa, Kondi came in a hero. Then you run your mundo the tiny dam do Garang heap some dear tella, Rono, Kodom Mizashing. Rangshe Kong Yung Chen, Rono Theatre, didn't go with Gavi Michel. He knew me a day, you know, not here at the John Yeva Masi. Jenny, he knew John Rangshinji. Rang saying he knew go at that Yung Jen, Rangshinji, he Michel. Younger Tong Yung change Mississippi Joy Michel. What is that? Said that Rang Yu and then Rang Sing to a temple you to talk to the Rang Yu that what did take me to say that.
This is sharing some rocket.
Because I disorder that. Because Rang Yu said, Rang Yu says, then, this is going to Kono news and Jiding Tanya. Anybody repaired down and you got the Yedos, Jiding Tanya, Madame Shagara. Tanganto Rangsi trouble, Jebashin, Rang Yu Yomara. Said the Jiding Tanya down. Repair Jebashin, you got Kong in the Rangsi, drop to those.
So Geshe read the second part, which is refuting the means of establishing self-cognition or self-knower. That's on page 113. He read pretty much the whole thing there. So the two things that are stated here are that whether we look at it from a conventional worldly point of view, or we look from the ultimate reasoning point of view, analysis point of view, self-cognition, the means you use, right, memory as a means to establish self-knower is not feasible. In the world, the people don't, talk about the self-cognition of, for example, the perception of a below, in the world, everything is established without analysis, isn't it? It just, that's how it is done. From that perspective also, they said, memory does not serve as an evidence to establish self-cognition. Now, from the ultimate reasoning point of view, if you say, like, we're looking into something that's findable, right? And from that point of view, nothing is findable, right? The memory is not findable. Nothing is findable as intrinsically existent. Right? So from that perspective also, your evidence or the means that you use to establish self-cognition is not working. That's what the Prasangikas are saying.
What is it? But Dharma got to Tibetan going to continue this is because a cool child, motivation, the Dharma day, do this. Dharma do Missus Taki, Missus Uta. Dashi Mizas, Missus is a talker to go over. But then I around you, the Muzi Michi, two Marisuta.
Munjim Mishi,
Muji is on you.
Munjim Kasake, Munjim Mishi, Ranyo, the Mushi, and Temperature like that, they take my sword.
Oh, this word.
Tapena?
That because Temper here to what the Muzi Michi did the Yomaris. For Temper control with the sword. That Rory to the Rory to Temper, you wish to go or what is it?
I didn't see to the Yomaris. I conjure is Ranshi Rupu that. Tanda Rangi Dugan, Lola, Rangi about the Ranshin Rupu again.
I don't know get the Ranshin to that rare, the guest that Ranshin to go.
All of this on the so we are on the same point still here. As you can see on the top of page 130, maybe I should read it's translated here, thanks. So then I will translate the explanation given. So it says here, This kind of proof commits the fallacy of begging the question, what is to be proved is the same as the means of the proof. It is like citing as evidence to prove the impermanence of sound that is apprehended by a visual cognition. Okay, so now explanation given on that is, just as we can see with this example, we can say that sound is impermanent, right, because it is visually perceived in a syllogistic form. Sound is impermanent, and the reasoning we use is it is visually perceived. Well, that reasoning is not feasible, isn't it? The visual perception cannot process sound, you know. So just like that, they said that your reasoning that there is a self-knower of a cognitive experience of seeing blue because of the memory, isn't it? And in their school of thought, the memory is taken as intrinsically existent recollection memory, isn't it? And from Prasangika point of view, there is no such intrinsically existent recollection. Just like we can say there is no visual perception of sound as impermanent, there is no intrinsic memory, right, that can establish the self-knower of seeing blue. Okay, you see that? Right? I know it's all complex. Welcome aboard. Yeah.
Well, did it? God, Simeon, you know what he was. You see what they real so long the concert you know he medium Tati to much go message that now you medium now he do you took Gaga care your rig medium or didn't say that teachers had the redoing a Geshe that your mercy go or rig medium go my race. Zero says your
I don't know if you need to care your mercy.
What is it? When you need their mercy, she don't know, she does in the course.
So remember earlier, the point was that it's not possible for two visual perceptions of a blue arising at the same time, because the visual perceptions belong to the same perceptual kind, right? So it's impossible. So two substantially different. I'm missing the big one. Two substantially different visual perceptions of blue cannot happen at the same time, because the visual perceptions of blue belong to the same perceptual category or same type. By stating that, Prasangika is saying that we are not saying that the different perceptions cannot arise at the same time, right? It's possible for the visual perception, auditory perception, olfactory perception to arise at the same time because they don't belong to the same, right, a perceptual category, right? So one is auditory, one is, olfactory, one is visual. So that's possible, but it's not possible for two substantially different perceptions of the same kind to arise.
What do you Karza Shibole the Shivaji be Shibole the Chawaji be Tiki and Zebari Hiesonga Shunde and Judin and Gobi Jang Hieso so study Rory Beji that Jiba Chejak Chembeta J Rari Midede Ronse J Trube Chembata Gona then Rory Yever Drive the mind, Rory motivation, Trebaya, cool motivation. To that driven, you said the song to the drum without musicians not go here. She Jugale, get there, she did Trebali to motor to show me. Here's all. Jigdeve Taji on the Shiva, Chamber Tasko and the River Drive the mind. Tida Chamber, you know, River Majevi Penna. She and she the mayor and the Mishi Majib. Shiruhi, Jubaran Dili, so was that the Treba Nika Kantaso, Goja, Roger Drivi, Ta and the Mahinde, Namala Marjorie Joda, Shimala, Majibe Joy, Shiji Tibetaji, Shiji Tibeta, Le Naji Hiva, so you were Jordania, the Arabic Nuala Dozuni Hibata, Ranyoda, Hinunis, Mangibi said, there's Mink 1,000 years, you the Ranyoda, Hinu Kanya Yeva Midute, Pena. Mink 1,000 joy, the Daggy, Hinya Kaya Midebada. Tanya the Mame Sever and hidden danger. Rang saw the He saw Condian came in Hino. Didn't you? Did on your Midute? Tanya is on you. Ngarang was some danger. Tell around you Thomas Zanshin. Roger Kong Yung Chun in Rang Yung Shonen. Did other go away, Kavi Bishir. Kavi Bishir, Hunia made the unit Archiva Targi. To Yava, Masi, Siene, Hinu Shona, Ranze, you got it, and you did Ranzi, Hini. Yang Marton, she to Mississippi, Joey Wishes. Roger Tadina, and Tademi. Kabuna irreduce. Tina Chingamaching, Mundi, but Narmo, Juru Savasha Yomara.
No.
But the Rajita to the Tadina, Demeto Shakaris. Tina Temaja, take Maris, or this is what I got you.
No, sir. So we're still on the same point, refuting the means of establishing self-cognition or self-knower. And as we know that the advocates of self-knower or self-cognition use memory or temba, recollection, as a way or means to establish that there has to be or there is such thing as self-knower of cognitive experience of having seen blue, right? And so now here the Prasangikas are saying that because in their standpoint, the self-knower, which they, contend to exist, a self-knower of the cognitive experience of having seen blue. This whole thing is too much to repeat in a sentence. And the memory that is used to establish it, right? Because in their system, both of them have to exist intrinsically. Okay, they are. And from Prasangika point of view, if they are intrinsically existent, and then they are totally unrelated to each other, right? They have nothing to do with each other. And to say that the recollection establishes, self-knower of cognitive experience having seen blue is just saying that that what you saw in the before was blue, now you recollect yellow, right? If you have not seen yellow, how can you recollect yellow, right? So it's as sort of a bizarre as saying the same thing. The two things that exist intrinsically, they cannot be interdependent related in each other as well. Just like the color, just like the vase and the pillar are not related, isn't it? Vase is a vase, pillar is a pillar, right? So yellow is a yellow, blue is a blue. They are not related in the same way. So to say that the recollection and memory establishes self-cognition of the perception of blue is almost saying the same thing, that you have recalled seeing yellow, although what you really saw was a blue.
What is it? The temple is just possible temple. Yeah, the temple. Yeah, something until temple that you go new ones to Maris. Just Michel make you a
No.
Sushi, you're not sure the she which have done, Mary the Michi which have the Yomara.
No.
So the temple, some you might know the China, the you're the. Just don't know the two Maris.
Just
Just don't know, 제가 예신 용어를 넣고야.
Vale.
어떻게 저 노조 쓰기로.
Vale.
그래서 맨날
Ale di bluetooth mar solo solo.
제가 매시를 매중아 여러.
Lao.
쉬기를 쉬용아 여러.
Lao.
여기는 매는 쉬기 제가 말.
Lao.
그 매는 매시 제가 말 쉬는 쉬기 제가 말.
Lao.
쉬기 매라 쉬 매시 매가 여러.
Lao.
그래서 노조 조금만 더 쓰고. 제바다.
Chebata rari ni research to the doom. They say that you know the existence which they said that the self-knower exists, it entails you know, memory recollection later, right? And so that is not warranted. That's what the Prasangika is saying. You know, self-knower does not warrant or entail, you know, the recollection, or the recollection doesn't entail, right? The other way, it's the same here. And the examples given here are two. I think examples may be more difficult for us here. You know, just because there is a water, it does not necessarily mean there also has to be what is called water crystal, right? It's possible there is both water and a water crystal, but it's possible that there is water but no water crystal, right? It's possible that there is fire, but there is no, you know, Michelle, I think they translated here as fire crystal. I cannot critique that. Probably the meshel is more like magnifying glass, I would assume. You know, just because there is a fire, it does not entail that there has to be a magnifying sort of glass there. It's possible, right? So in other words, that warrant the assumption that because recollection exists, so there has to be self-cognition of having seen blue must exist. That assumption itself, right, is not warranted, right? It does not entail that.
What did you call that? But no, Ming doesn't say, Joy, you did not get that he can't keep me do about the Tanya the Marmem say around he did the wrong saw the he saw county and came in here no. And there because Rory Ronyon de Ronyon Mindu, Tanya some young Garang Gari, but some Dejang. Tell her Ronyon told me some shade. Ranshi Kang Yung Shade, Ronyon Jona, Tinder go back be sure. He knew I made it. You don't know what I joined Massy. Jenny he be sure. Yet Jenny he be sure. He knew go no Ranzeki, he knew you go Titan. You didn't Ranzeki, he be sure. Sure, yeah, not Tony. Tim is joy be shares. What is that? That Ranzeki Tadina, Jimmy Toya Tadi. Ranzeki Jigina, Tadi Demi Jig. Which you don't go Tadi in the Jig Tadi Demi Chimita Tadi, Tadi Demi Jig Marwako, Tonjiro, or Jetta Disona, Kuni, the Casa Jidon Tremble Deni, New Idea of a dredging. Kayi Yordi, just no motor in the hotel, Doctor Yomara. No, hotel do not Chava Yogora. Chava Mina Doctor Yomara. Chava air. Oh, this is.
So in other words, you know, that there is no logical pervasive necessity that if recollection exists, then there has to be self-knower or self-cognition, right? And that's basically right what the Prasangikas are pointing out. So because they assert those two things exist, self-knower or self-cognition, rangrig, and recollection or memory, now the question is like, I mean, because in their system, they both exist intrinsically. So we will say, are they intrinsically one or intrinsically different, separate, isn't it? If they're intrinsically one, then that is undifferentiable, isn't it? They're just one. If they're intrinsically different, then they're so unrelated, like a vase and a pillar, right? They have really nothing to do with each other, and that's what the person pointed out. For example, in the case of impermanence, mitaba and cheba, production or product, they are different, but of the same nature, isn't it? Impermanence and production or product, for lack of a better word for cheba, something that produced, they are different, but at the same time, they are of the same nature, right? Product means impermanence, impermanence means product, Yeah. So it's not like that, right? The self-cognition and memory are not like that. So now,
da kaza sheba was da tangbola sundi yile sumbe rigbane kedar yemena no yitemba shida ji yeso ton shogama nare ye ngombo de tonyam de temba misewata rori bebe shesel Tilen didn't tell her to them. Tilen didn't tell her to them. Tin Dorjee, Nuanica, the Chamegi land deba, Bibi. Shung de the Oman Jubanica, Tondo de Masi, Tanya de Rarica by India. Jugberang really would the Jide Italian the there around Jushin Cheba you miss a yedo. Here's all Ranri Meja Cheba Jedini. Signoran Tang Joale. Signor the Joale. Trigger Shive Tokyo. Hingar Nuale, she. Chemba Jewana, Yuji Chemba Pangne. Yuji Shiva Chemba Pang, Yukona Chemba member. Ye got the tongue he Yuji Jewe, Jewam, Dani, Inada, Jewe, Goni, Imbe Shirpen, Guji to the Shiva Mula, Lula Mubana, Tokyo Yang, Mubatembi. Because the Tokyo young took to the Shiva Mubana, Tokyo young Mubat Yungi, Tukmanula, Chin Duk Dratene, Tulama, Nar Mugbe, said, Tokyo Imba, Do Yambe, Chemba Imbi, said they. Then ngar tu shukze tu manyuya si mugwa chembe tu shukwa chemba shendu ngar yunyo ze yujem ramanyuya si yujem chem de chedo yujem chemba teji tendos de da kaje de chemajala kharsa nyuangu de robo se adi ped de inso da de junju ke se adi ra da de chiwa se yoro da sadona de chiwa se da sa yangsa shangdong de yori o de gunga da jiban da hinga ji ko be khong de yin chiwa za tong ye de ga ra是过年的了呀，这个说家的，就是说家的啥呢？说家的个韩国是吧？说家的那个这个头的修呀的，头的狼呀的嘞，如个头的那个狼头玩的是。现在过说家的啥这个说家是这个么？ 독시보 다 누가 자자 아니시는 나사랑거 있어라.
So.
그 나사랑도 전에는 야 다지 독시야 가도 쇼르서 이마 소개도 전 디디 쇼샤서 제거리스.
So.
지금 뭐 소개도 가도 그 독시와 하고요 뭐라. 어디서 그랬다.
전바지 영왕에는 로고 말했어.
다 제바지 영왕에 로고 말했어. 그래서 두 살때 독시와 되냐도 갔어. 뭐 소개도 내가 독시와 용요 말했어.
So now we move to the third point, which is basically Prasangika's, way of establishing memory or recollection without need for self-knower or self-perception. And that's on page 114 to 115. Geshe read. The page 114 and a little bit on the 115. So what Geshe explained is that in this section, right, it is, again, there are two things. First one is called actual explanation. In other words, from Prasangika point of view, that there is no need for self-knower or self-perception, but recollection or memory is feasible, right? That actual explanation. And then relatedly, the second part is called an appended presentation of source of knowledge. I was thinking, like, what is the source of knowledge? Now, the Tibetan word is called tsema. In other words, an appended presentation about tsema, pramana, valid cognitions, right? And non-valid cognitions, so that will be presented, right? So the source of knowledge is the pramana, okay, valid cognition. Because I didn't have the Tibetan text, I'm like, what's the source of knowledge? So now, as Geshe read, so that's what it is. So as Geshe said before, that without need for like a kind of a appealing to the self-cognition, self-knower, it is possible to assert tenba, recollection or memory, and it's possible to establish valid cognitions and non-valid cognitions, right? That's kind of the background stuff. So now, as Geshe, there's the example. That's what Geshe was explaining. Given how without need for a prior experience, it's possible to have a memory or recollection. In other words, one does not necessarily have to experience something before, right, in order to have a recollection or memory. Okay, that's what Prasangikas are saying. Right? And the example they give is a very interesting one here. Of course, Geshe seems to know this example very well, maybe based on his own life experiences. Of course, we here translate as a rat. Okay, maybe it works. That's okay. Actually, it is one of those hibernating rat-like animal, I should say. Used to be in Tibet. Like for a long winter period, they will just hibernate because it's too much for them. And then when the spring comes, they might come out of their holes, so to speak. So the example given here is that when such hibernating rat or whatever you want to call that animal, bites you, right? At that moment, you experience the bite, isn't it? But it's possible that that hibernating animal is a rat, right, who has already injected poison into you. But at that moment, you experience the bite because, right, bit you, but you did not experience the injection of the poison or the poison, right, going into your system. But then later, as the season changes and the hibernating animal comes out, they said because of this dragon, the thunder noise, somehow now the poison get matured or activated in your system. Okay, and so now you remember, oh my gosh, when I got bitten by that animal, maybe that's the time I got the poison, isn't it? Before you do not experience the transfusion of the poison, but you still have a recollection, right? As you remember that bite, oh, that's when I got the poison. So that's why Prasangika is saying that it's not necessary that one has to have certain experience, prior experience, to be able to have a recollection or memory. Yeah. So this is the example that they present. Nice.
어디 제가 랑르 줍시다 랑르 고시 리바 모여 어디 단다데 윤주 처에 도긴 해야 돼. 존주고 리바라. 제가 랑르 고시 리바 약혼도 인세요. 저들이 Chemo was a
Ali Chema lost. Ali Chinju Guru. So, of course, there are many ways or reasonings to refute self-knower or self-cognition, but Geshe says that this example here given, hibernating animal bite and the poison transfusion, is regarded as a very effective, a way to refute self-knower, and this really comes basically from Bodhisattva Mahasattva Shantideva's work, Guide to Bodhisattva Way of Life.
What did that cause up? Yes, or short my chase at Dana, she was it, Naji, Simonji, you Jemba Mirite, teaching the Naji, Yungi Hibani, Ranji, Himbe, Pena Shambe, Shibe, Nanyo, Nebi, Shibe, Shijama Machine, Jubale, Tada Chebe, Cheba Regmente, Shinjima, Jula Jevaye. Yes, also, did I repatriate the order? Pena Chema, you was in Miki Ranzu, Ranzu Jebetenda, he is Ranzi Tadina, and then Tadid Kaza. The Tadi in the Demeto Tadi Urwa.
No.
Think that Tebatali Karsa, Garmoboton, Shinja, Yumarwa. Oh, this is the Demeto Yeregus typical.
No. So, at the part of the reasoning here to refute self-cognition or self-knower Rangrik is, as we also mentioned earlier, that if the visual perception that experience blue, that's one, and then the later recollection of that experience, right, are two intrinsically existent phenomena, right, I said, then they, have no relationship with each other. There's no connection, right? They're unrelated things, so it's impossible then for the recollection to be connected to the self-knower, because they have nothing to do with each other. So the examples given here is that of these two individuals, Maitreya and Upagupta, right? Whatever maybe Maitreya experienced, Upagupta cannot recall that because he did not experience that, or vice versa. So because those are two different individuals with different experiences, right? Yeah.
Oh, did I go to the Karza Ronze tremendous representation where there were. But you did Standard together, Nunia, Chambani, the Rangi Tati, because Demeton is go Marty, Demeton Rangi to Race, Ben Shambe, Shambasa, you are the Nirbesa, Jayamara. Shamba, you saw Shabakura, Seven you are the new build in a pen over. I said, Roller to Tadina, you want a sea Chambani. She said, Demeter, you Tadi Kamuna, you see. She said, this is the call Chambeta, then you want to have a doula.
A Pajon did, there were your serious again.
Oh, that running to get the Demeter is over. Take you, Patana, could Demeter shadow.
So, in other words, as Geshe explained the same thing, that of course, from the standpoint of those who accept or claim self-knower, self-cognition, they are not going to say that self-cognition and later recollections are unrelated, right? Because they said there is some connection, and based upon the relationship, they said that's possible. But from Pasengika's point of view, two things that intrinsically is asserted to exist, they are totally unrelated to each other, like a vase and a pillar, or like these two individuals, Maitreya and Upagupta. And if Maitreya experienced something, how on the earth Upagupta will be able to recollect that, right? Because you did not, right? You are not the same person. So it is as kind of bizarre as that example, from Pasengika point of view.
Karsa Shamba Nirpe Lazo, Ngana Shenanji, Hinyi Shena Jiju Dominde, He Ranzi Truba La, Jujikba Medebe, Rigbe, Medebe, Rigba, he's a Trembala Jaws, or Tivia. Here, Sahi Raji de Barse, Zundo, Shimona Dazo, Jang Rangi Gozi, Rigba, Hung de Deba Namda, Short Jawa, Hejing, Oman Yingbo, Dini Rangi So, Le Jang, Rangi Gozi Dena, Jugba Lene, Juza Sungwe Rigba. Rangi Yoya, Rangi, Himba Mizive Rigba, Shaji listen check the Thai Rigba, Rangi Meg Shebache Rigba, he goes the Tema Tamshi, not Tamba, Tansima Taros, or Telchita Rangi Gugis, Rangi Midoga Karga, Sahara Raji, the Mother Rangi Kashas, Tata Yudo Sajara, Tine Kashas. Shimunamdo said Paul the Roy, Sunga Paul the Roa, or there are Kashas. And then Rebecca, there Dema Namda, short draw hedgings, shown this and that, Jujukas Dema. Oman Yimbas and did it, that did it. Lomoling Dejero, Lomoling Deje, that the Randes and Lomo. Kedaji, the Omajiro, so that the Rogu de la Jugbali, Juja, Songbe, Rigba, Rangi, Ranzi, Rangi, Karsa, Juja, Rigba, Rangi, Mena, Major Chemachi, Rigba. Ribada he goes to them and Tamsi Charles Mataro was Ona Rangi, Tanya the Yamena, 10 euro. Chekilo, Monjing also Dawd Chuzi Shida in Shena, Tena Shidara Monji Mikiti, Yungombo Shiva Topji, Sema Shi Jimmy go by. Michi de the Mombo Suma Timbe Shiba de Mos Dela Tiji Mombo Mebata Munzi Michi Meba Nike Dondo Shebe Sheda Tiji Munzi Michi Yoba Sema in Bishero Shi Drobo Juben Namjile Ribegoni Ribego Shin Songso Shogama Taki, Hiwang Shiba Rashi, Judy Shiba Jelayang, Ranyu, the Hinyuki, Shani, Shane, Ranjing Jobani, Ranze Kelly Angi Yinla, there Tenju and Yuji Pensitu Java Hivi, Yuji Loso, Eugene Tishiki, Sema, Shimi Gube, Rari Mishi, Bishe de Ranze Tanya Tia Ke Milebe Angi Nos, there that Chitan Joshina, Range Kelly, the Sugar, Dado Jenny, Joya Tony, or the Range Shagu race. The Tenyoka Dado Jenny, Majo, Tanya, the Tanya, the Shawayenza, and the Range Shago Yomaris.
So Gisela read, things you find on page 116, so number of treatises have been cited here, and all of them refute existence of self-knower or self-cognition, Rangri. And the texts are here, the 7th chapter of the fundamental verses of the middle way. This is what we call fundamental wisdom treatise by Nagarjuna, the 7th chapter. And the dispelling disputes, finally woven, and the essence of Madhyamika. This is by Acharya Baba Viveka, right? and auto commentary on differentiating or distinguishing the true truths. So all of them refute existence of self-cognition or self-knower. And there's a lot of the reasons that given are what we just looked at, right? They overlap or accept the same thing. And so that reasoning has been summarized here, the things we have already talked about, based upon Chandrakirti's supplement to the Middle Way, translated here as Introduction to the Middle Way. And the number one refutation is that what is established, self-cognition, and the means by which it's established, so they are not different. They are one and the same thing, right? That was one of the points here. Here translated as, what is it? It's begging the question, what is to be established is not different from the means of establishing it. That's one. The second one is, even with an existent self-awareness, which is self-cognition, it is impossible to remember what is intrinsically other. Remember, if things are intrinsically existent, they are unrelated, and then one cannot help to remember anything else there. The third one, with all the due respect to the translator here, who did an amazing job overall, I think there seems like quite an error there. It says, action, agent, and patient would be one. They have nothing to do with patient here in the text. Okay, the Tibetan word is chache le, so there's three, which is with the agent and the act, and the le has to do with the object. Remember, we said the perceiver and the perceived. The perceived is the le, Tibetan word. So somehow it got translated, I guess, one of the things into patient. We have nothing to do with the patient in this case, right? And then the fourth one is memory. Can happen without the need for self-cognition there. So as Gisela said, that why they ended up asserting self-cognition or self-knower is because in their system, they believe in that intrinsic instanticness, isn't it? Things has to be established by way of being findable. Something has to be findable, So that's why they ended up. Whereas for Prasangikas, nothing is intrinsically existent, so they don't have the same viewpoint and obligation to that, because Prasangikas refute intrinsic existence. So therefore, they said there's no need to assert self-cognition, or the memory of that, because everything is non-intrinsically existent. And so we will stop here and first go to our Dharma friends in the cyberspace, and then we'll come back. Yeah. Do we have a question there?
No questions.
Okay, so then we're back here. Yeah. Someone can start. If not, let me can start. Yeah.
The mind is defined as clarity and cognizing. Mind.
Yes.
Yeah, clarity and cognizing.
Yes.
So clarity refers to means this is the nature of the mind. It's that it's empty and always free of form, right? But also, this is what gives rise to appearances. My understanding is. Okay, so everything that we perceive is mental
because of clarity.
Objects. Yeah, because of clarity. And then the second aspect is the cognizing aspect. So a single moment of mind is like a bipartite.
So the cognizing part, what is it? The second part you said. I've got the first part already, clarity. Right, mind is clear and cognitive, right?
A single moment has clarity and cognizing. So
yes.
A single moment of mind gives rise to an appearance of an object, and part of that same moment of mind cognizes it. So that means that the mind is bipartite. Has two parts.
Bipartite is two, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
So doesn't that suggest that? Okay. So what the Tibetrians are saying that it's tripartite, partite. Right, but even for nevertheless, the fact is that cognizing, the cognizing aspect of it, cognizes its own mind. It's cognizing itself is a self-cognizing. So that and that's accepted by everybody above the Sautrantika.
Okay. I understood you.
That that would mean that there is such thing as self-cognized.
Okay.
Because again, the representation of the object is, these are all mental. They're minds. Whatever the aspect is everything that we see. Actually, we don't see objects. We see mind, right? And that's accepted by everybody above Sautrantika, including Franz.
Okay.
So it's a self-cognized.
Okay.
So
Thank you. Yeah. Koran condition did this go again. Session Rikpa Shevetsin Shago Wagen. Session Rikpa Wagen. So the seller said the Kosheva Koran Rangshin, the Seba Digi Tene, Chetam Janang to bed the Wagen. Seba Digi in Zako Nang to Bache Wagen. And then the India kind of Rikpa said the Pena. Then the kitchen my chick like church or tad in like a session Rikpa Niga your wagon. The you the Seba did not, you the Rikpa the wagon. So the Rikpa said the Ane course Sheba Koran Koran the Gumar, so the Koran Rangi Taga inside this wagon. Rikpa said your wa.
Rikpa said the Rikpa Shagro.
In a question, I don't know you tad the Dukan again, you the Tongo you dig the number of your wagon. Same as charge of the machine Tongo Yamar was again. You want the Tongo Yamars, you. The Juta Samalog did the you can number Laura Shan and number the Zimbar again. Mother, you run Piggy Castle talk there again. The Zingima number there again. Just some Kangalo same now, just same similar tatting at Chagomaresa.
You could do a shot chagos, numbers are good, Danos as you you done Madonna or you Tongoro, move Tongoro.
And the Danam the you Marada.
Danums and the Konasha, the numbers you Danos.
In the you did Tatongo, Danam the Tongo.
Or you are Tongo, Danus, you never shy and the Danos were Mother Los Kayomara, you Tongre. You Madonna Kayomara, did it?
Pen again, Kayo the Imbe in a Kayo number the shadow or again. Number Shabat, you dig Danam the Ramada, Kayo round Tongo. Kayo the Tonga.
You do the Kayo Mazos and Nishida has on tiny gate.
No. Actually, that and again, the Riba says, what's a Riba says?
Riba said Thomas, I share. Riba Thomas,
and talking about the Bena, you listen a part of mother, so Tomaka Sugar, Mother Riba said, Tom to make a new better cigarette, but never the Tonga again.
Riba Danis, you Riba, you call you. Dubato, you are the Ribasi or
Mother nobody, you're not Tonga, but Cabalan area. Session Riba in about the Rico, Cabalan, Rigag, Nubachi is a Riba Lago, intimate Rico.
Ribeta is you talk about you
in a Tom Kugia Maroga. Tom Tani in a Tom Kugia Maroga.
Oh, that go you use the body, but over the Tongamara, Tongamara. The request to call Torunga is Sigura. Call you Torunga. But Bakawa, you talk about. You told me you chase no total. But today, my you chase no total request.
The General Kawa, the Tedukan working at the Kawa, the number the game, Mixe Shadow, Mixe de Kawa de Tong, my Michelle at the machine number shake. What did you number the Yacha? Muslim number shot down the top of the 2 minutes of the again. Muslim number shot down the top of the number shot down the again. The 2 minutes, Mixe Kawa the Tongi or again. Kawa Tonga Dagara Kawa Tongo, Kawa number Tongo again.
Kawa Tonga number Shago, that you got a Kawa Tonga.
That talk baggy, Kawa to country talk baggy.
Toba Kawa Tonga.
Southern Dirun Zimmer, Kawa Tongo,
Kawa Tonga,
Kawa Tongo's lower.
Tonga, Kawa Tonga Jimara. Tonzu, that way, Jacob, Tonzu, no, you see Tonga, Jacob Tonga.
Just make sure, right, with that, because. Because you were talking about how, the cognition, we see all the images of the things, right? Not sort of the real ones, sort of necessarily. But Geshe is saying, no, we cannot say that. We have to say we see things. If we're looking at the pillar, right? Whether it's our visual perception, it gets the image of the pillar, but it's also seeing the pillar, right? But in case of conceptual cognition of the pillar, right, it's seeing the pillar still, but now there is more mediation there. There is the sound and the image mediation, unlike the visual perception, That's what Geshe started explaining. So when we say that Sheva, perception, is both clarity and cognitive, you're right. The clarity part is that's why things can reflect on our perceptions, the clarity aspect of that. The cognitive is like, is in the nature of perception itself, isn't it? Let's say it has the ability to perceive things. For example, if there is a cup in front of you, then it can perceive if the cup is not there, the object is not there, right? The cognition is in the nature of perception, right? It can perceive things only when things are, it interacts with the things, let's just say. Does that make sense? Does that somehow, yeah.
So you're asserting objects don't exist?
No.
No, I'm not asserting that. That begs the question. Yeah, you're right. Because like I said, again, don't the Sotranticus and above accept that what we're seeing actually are representations of the object. We don't have, only Vaibhashikas assert that we have direct contact with the object. Even though we still have direct, we call it a direct perception. It's not.
So you're talking perception in general, right?
Yeah,
not
everything that we
direct
experience.
Perception, conceptual, anything, right?
No.
Okay.
No, everything we experience, it's direct in the sense that we're directly perceiving a representation of the object, but not the object itself.
Okay.
Only Vaibhashikas believe that we have direct contact with the object. Isn't that true?
Right. Yeah, I will ask, yeah. Kurang this one to Tibetan le shawe ina chira ma wa chigo chig rawage. Penang anzo karsa warada konge wangshe ina ko yurang la ngwe school rawage. Chugo de rest member ki tanda dubda shamba de zo ki yurang ngwe tonggo yama de namba de chane namba de june yure to arma de yurang tonggo yama sle go marwasa. Di da chik sese chawo sargen. Tubde.
La.
chira maba pa pibe da chira maba ki ko yu ko la tega ko 통고 la bro wage da shamba chupda dige ro wage yu ra la ngos nganje di kala ko da sheba de ngos rege yo ma res din namba de sha ne ro wage namba de 통고 yo ma do yu ra la ngos reg ne 통고 yo ma sten de go ma basa yu ra la ngos reg ne ma do ma jan namba sha be to ne tong de
这个知道那么山多呀，这那么马上修多少你要了，学卡里呢？他们知道那么马上是有那么马上是嘛的。
ken ben gen chira ma be kayo de gen to na kayo khona le ber nge mixe sa go reg ne khona to go res le go wage
嘛，是那么那么开明的时候，那么现实是东西个了。
ale namba ko keling mar cheda ko khadu dagara thonggo lo go wage ta shamba ga cheda ko de namba chi kili
namba danam shaya yorsi.
cheda gen danam shage da danam de yu de rang mar was ko danam di thonggo yor ma de pen cheda ma be ko namba shigi me so khorang thong de go wage ta shamba de ki de namba de kilo yung go yor za
ma namba sha dagara yu thong sig ma so yang ko yu ma do namba sha de sig ma de chi ba.
ina ta yu lo mo so reg ba thong de thonggo yor mar la go tu de shamba
da mo de sa yu thong sig de da.
ma de reg dan cheda ma se reg ba de shigi mar wage
Rama de nami jenjer sirwa. Namba sha danu sha yo marsi ko.
to ba le se go chi ba cheda ma
Odire sirwa de ta juda khoma ju danu sha sha go ro.
no so no Geshe says yeah I think maybe this must have right Vaibhashikas they do not accept the images appearing to the perceptions. So the perceptions directly engages with, right, whatever it is. Whereas in all other schools, right, they talk about how, we see things with the aspects of the objects, But still, Geshe says we have to say that not only the aspects with representations, image of that, but we're also seeing the things. We have to say that, yeah.
Yeah, we have to say it, but nevertheless, it's a representation. It's a mental representation.
Yeah.
Yes. It's a very accurate and correct.
Right. Right.
I'm sorry.
Quran this again. Number 2 the bena to the kangma sa war ge. Bena che tham jan number the namje ge thong ge be na number de ko tak ta che de khare yim de number chuba me ba ro ge. Ma no ba thong ge za che de thong still la ge ro ba sa.
Na.
To the shamba da ge kayul be sha ge ge. Kayo de number de sha ro ge. Number de thong ge kayo de thong ge ro ge. Number de kayo ko na chema chi shin number ma do ya ko number de ji ge ka sa ko re north je tree de de ge thong ge ma ro. Number de chema chi shin number de no true me be sa ko ro da ge ta ka de pyoge je de chu ge.
Je ko thong da khani ko khare rong shi de khare. Oti nama sha wa da ko. Ko ri na.
That's right, yeah. The representations are correct, right? It's through the representation images, let's say, right? You process. That's what they say. Yes, that's right. Yes. Yeah.
So where do we end up?
Yeah. Yeah, yeah.
You were asking me the question, Lobsang, is if everything that we are aware of is images, does that mean that I'm asserting the non-existence of external objects, real objects? If this, everything we have only contact with images,
Images, right?
right? Is this your? That's what you're suggesting?
Stand in the middle of the street. I hit the microphone. It's too slow.
Yeah, yeah.
Let's get 100 microphones.
Yeah, yeah.
If you stand in the middle of the street and the car runs you over, you're going to say, "Oh, this is just a representation."
Actually, that's a good one, Rosala. I got hit by the representation. I was just kidding. Yeah. That's okay. Yeah, go ahead.
I have a different contention
Yeah,
about
yeah.
this whole thing. So we go to refute what they're saying about the Ranrig, but the method we're using is we're bringing in intrinsicness. So now we're engaging intrinsicness of the self-knower and the object and and we're not really addressing aspects like, is it valid or not?
What?
We're bringing in intrinsicness rather than addressing the validity or invalidity of what they're saying.
Okay,
So
so
it's kind of like,
so what are we not addressing? Yeah, give me that part.
well, we're not addressing the validity or invalidity of what they're saying because we're just going and bringing in intrinsicness to disprove what they're saying about the Ranrig. It's like, oh, here's if this is intrinsic and that, then they're unrelated and they can't
No, I
really be
understood what
interacting with
you
one
said,
another.
yeah.
And it's like now we're talking about intrinsicness and we're not talking whether if it has any validity or invalidity because we're now talking about something else. And we can use intrinsicness as an argument actually to disprove anything.
Okay.
So that doesn't really help me as far as like, well, but is there some validity to what they're saying?
Okay, I understood. Let me go back to Kishilan. The Moran detained the wagon, that and then the session and goes again. Kansana, then the Tenju Bagi, Takin, Rangi requirement to Rangi Kagi or wagon. Kayag Nalia, that and the Shukshamas and other cases, Rangi, the Conjo Lola, Rangshin Dubache, the Chamber de Rangshin Duba wagon. So answer Rangshin Duba was shared there, Conjo Sama Rangshin Dub. That do matter said they could get a Kaga Rawayang, Rawage, and a piggy Karsaware, Rangri, you make it Rawage. Conjure Dubje Shaba Delias, and the Seshe than the ligaments, Rangri, Rangshin Dumaruta, Temper Rangshin Dumaru, shed the mother Chigarwa, Copige Rangri, you make it Rawage. Conjure Jumje Shigarwa, Delia nature get tangament of us, or Rangshin Dumaru shed, Rangshin the shed of Rangshin Duma Lago or what, can you bug Rawage?
tuji chema se rari yoga sa za de rong che de rong shi chema kele me di ang yong go ro se za tu sa de rong se chema kele to ye da ga zu de ga go ro
Ale.
rong ru go zu tu mo ye se do
No.
it is go
Ale. What Geshe is saying is that, because in their own system, right, because it's not just that they're talking about self-cognition, self-knower, or memory, because they necessarily assume that that self-knower has to be, intrinsically existent, and the recollection is, right? And so from Prasangika point of view, right, nothing exists intrinsically, so how on the earth is it possible that there is intrinsically existent self-knower and then intrinsically existent recollection or memory, right? And then you're trying to make some connection between the two things, right? That's what the Prasangika say.
I get that, but that doesn't help me in getting whether their point of view is valid or invalid. Because now we're just talking about the intrinsicness of it rather than is there some validity to what they're saying. So basically, maybe I would like a Dignaga-style refutation rather than this guy.
Sure. Okay. Ala Quran this way. Di ladu kalau Moran khodan chebe ina ane te karso kore ke rangri di rangsing druba ka thegen rabu cheta chemba da rangsing druba ka thegen ma do chidan rangri singen jirwa ke ane yue de me ka thegen dan chemba yeme di ko de legi me do sa rawa ke. Joba de rangri yue de me da kichama do chigi rawa ke rangri rangsing drub do me do di joba de marwa la kor ke dike.
se de rong ye se ko ke no ka ru se rong chi rong xin zhi ba yin de de ge cha ni ko yu bi ge ji do bu do se da ta ye da ka sha ma da bi ge zhe zhe ru bi xin za wa wo ge sa zhe zhe ro我听过也是在当中这个了，是当中这样个在个人都个的让谁知道开了没个投影子，这个在开了的都个个了的。
Because Geshe is saying that, for them, why they ended up, accepting self-cognition is because, they believe in the intrinsic reality, right? That's their whole foundational thing, So if they don't believe in that, there is even no need for them to exert self-cognition. And so Prasangika is saying that at the very foundational thing, right, your assertion, right, somehow, because you are trying to look at things from findability point of view, you shouldn't do that, right? There's not, it just because conventionally, right, people talk about recollection, everything, that is okay. But why you ended up in that position is because you think that something has to be findable, and so that's the objection they're making, right? Sort of, yeah. It's there, the fundamental foundation, they're attacking it, so that then, Yeah.
So it does sound like there is validity to that perception, right? Because I mean,
Which perception? You mean the self-cognition?
yes,
Okay.
I mean based on like just memory or just aware experience.
That's
like
what they are
there's-
saying, yeah.
Yeah, it looks like it's there, but again, Prasangikas are saying no.
No, Prasangika is saying that it's possible to recollect something, but there's no need to posit self-cognition. Prasangikas are not refuting the recollection and memory. They said it's possible without that. That's why they are presenting their unique way of, they said, without need to appeal to the self-cognition, it's possible to recollect. And so that example about, how you did not experience the poison injection before, but it's possible for you to recollect it. You said, when I got bitten by the rat, well, dang it, it shoot me the poison, right? That's what they're saying. Right, so recollection is possible, but there's no need to posit self-cognition. That's what they're saying, yeah. 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 Go ahead, yeah. Yeah.
So a minute ago I said something.
Mhm.
Let me turn it off.
Yeah, yeah.
A minute ago I said something, and you said something towards me. Oh, that was good.
Mhm.
And then I'm sitting here. What's he talking about?
Uh-huh.
Okay, who is that?
No, because you were saying, like, he was making a
I know, but now and I'm just using the
right,
reasoning.
right.
It arose in me that there was a person here, a self here. Okay.
Right. No, that's
Yeah.
what I found it very appealing what you just said, right? Because I said, if I stand in the middle of the road thinking it's a representation of a car coming, and then I got knocked out, then I realized it's the real car hit me, right? That's what I thought. But your example is working for me, right? I don't know about Geshe.
But I reacted to that. You were praising me, and I'm going, well,
Oh, I see, I see,
where's
I see.
that guy? Okay.
Oh, I see.
Yeah.
Oh, I see. Oh, that's wonderful. Thank you. 거기서는 간속에 최담적에 나바디 롤 샤바디 마도 최응어 스토고요 말라브로와게 딱인 디시즌 코라 켈렘브로와 저그 콜 갈렌제고로와 그 나바 텐데나 랑바가 랑다다사 모터 딩고라 모데 나바 용고 섬테든 모터 디초라 슈구레서로와게 모터 원데 슈구로와 저등에 디초 야고 랍소 라인바 녜콜로 테라다자 코 테라다자 양코 디저도 아르가 테라당사도 나수르서 코 동이 곰데서로게 디저거 yes
Actual experience.
yes yes
So that reminds me of when Jerin Puche was giving a teaching, and one of his disciples
yes
grabbed himself by the
Right.
collar.
Exactly,
And he
yeah.
said he found the conventional eye. He got scared because he started disappearing, right?
right
Just like
that reminded right yeah Los Angeles share the dimar bakara jerum je sungjo nande je surege 공부 전에 땡가네 남이도 섬체데 땡가네 텐동은 수래 지금 루주 제바게 제rum je 돈이 고송들에 yana jerum je 랑 가라게 남이도 섬체데 가라 땡가네 두준에 땅가 두 섬직 생데 디깔 루주데 알디 라마드 수 지금 어디 텐서 상황 라마드 수 있네 yeah okay
about this term self-experience and other experience.
Yes.
We heard
Sure.
about. They both refer to a perception of cognition, right? Not of an object.
or the cognitive experience right
Cognition, not an object. They refer to, let's say, the cognition of cognition of an object, not the object itself. Does that make sense? No, it's not stated there, but that's the way I'm understanding.
Okay, so say one more. So we have experience,
Both of them,
self-experience, other experience.
self-experience and other experience,
Yes.
they refer to the same thing, to the cognition of an object.
Oh, okay. I'll
They-
check it. Yes.
Yeah. So the other experience, the difference between self-experience and other experience is other experience refers to another mind cognizing the previous mind. not an object, but the previous mind. Whereas self-experience refers to the same mind cognizing that experience.
Okay.
So
I'll go back. Yeah.
and
Yeah.
yeah,
Okay.
all right. First of all, if it's correct, then I
Okay. Sure. Yeah. 好了，这是我的建议。可是让用的信用的写什么个？让用的信用就什么个？可能上把了让用信用你个了，可起于了呀，本来的信用来这个这。搞说的让买被现在那个了哇，去鱼让了呀，美国人什么的鱼的经验给他写不说了哇个，写不得了美国去了哇个，让人说的那说了哇个，搞啥的看囊了装的了哇个，这的写不你搞了写不了美的什么都去鱼了美国人去的写不囊的人什么的是的人那个，让人信用的这些信用。
让信啥的，可能都我这，可东个样现在什么现在这个。언제 미신 요게 시바지샤 양태 요게 시바샤 도샤서 신용스거라
네.
신용스다 대하실서 이제 타도가요 말아 도미로 저 말이지 라뇨 신용 가서 쉬었어도 제가 라뇨 저리서 라뇨 세대잖아 신용스 될 요새 시바지 로샤 양태 요새 제가
셔바셔바지 거르세 조르다.
셔바셔바샤다 타도가요 말아.
알아. 셔바데 같이데 셔바게지 시고 말아.
어때다 중마다 용거지가 들으시게 장소 타도가요 말아.
라로와. 제도 가라 신용 라이 된지미 지게 신 가요다 된데리야 때문에 저 제단 셔바 다가란 징게 셔바셔바데 고데게 시고로.
You 셔바요 말아. 되게 가 말아.
알레로. Yeah, I think the other experience is also focused on the cognition. I think the debate is about, right? And so must there be another cognition to establish that there is such thing as, right, the cognitive experience of seeing blue, right? Then we need another one too. That's called other experience. That's what Geshe said, right? His clarification. The self-experience is just, of course, looking inwardly, right, to itself. But the other experience is not really looking at other object per se, right? Not cover anything. The other meaning that do we need another perception to establish, right, that you have experienced seeing blue before? And if that were the case, there's infinite regress. Now that one also need another cognitive experience to establish it. That's what other experience means.
So but the Prasangikas, especially those who do not accept self-awareness, they have no problem with other experience, right? Because we can experience previous states of mind.
Right.
So, I mean, this is what Mahamudra is, right? Where Mahamudra, thinking, meditating on the nature of the mind. So a later state of mind meditates on a previous state of mind. So that's a type of other experience, right?
알아보랑 this 전에 가서 그래. 오마 tinju바기 다 랑리 도 고게 매자 로바게. 아니 매비네 아니 신용 캘린거 와서 그러게. 오마 tinju비 신용 캘린거 그러게.
신용 캘링거 말아.
아 tinju비 랑뇨 신용 캘린거 말왜. 아 그러나 삼바 신용 캘린거 그래서 다디 로바게 착제나로 로바게. 착제나리야 곰슈 띵 사부도 되가라야 아니 가서 그래. 다 소서디 디로바게 가서 그다. 똑방에마 아이나를 가르쳐마데 지금 모신에게 로바게 신용지 시기도 근데 그 신용인지 말와.
신용으로 사도 코로나시 코시게 세바지샤 연티신게 세바가 들으셔야 신용식으로.
그렇죠.
티신은 다들 대신게 세바지고 연저 티신게 세바지고 다 타도 될 거머서 토야요 뭐. 그때 조정을 말아.
알레 제도가 알레 랑뇨 신용이가 시기가 말아. 맞든지.
따소시 세월도 야머지.
알레 yeah so the Prasangikas do not accept either of them, right? Either way, because they say there's no need for that, Yeah. Yes. Okay. So did way. So we have a couple of requests.
We have an announcement before the prayer request today, we just wanted to remind everyone of the upcoming Vajrayogini self-initiation. That'll be on January 28th, this upcoming Wednesday, from 2 p.m. Till 6:30 p.m. And then there will be a short break after that, and from 7:30, we'll have our normal talk offering, or Lama Shuba talk offering. And so, yes, a reminder about the Vajrayogini self-initiation and about talk offering, both on January 28th, this upcoming Wednesday. And then in terms of information about the self-empowerment, for those who need it, or who need details to share with others who fulfill the requirements about attending and would like to attend, please refer to our website or the event page on our website via the events link in the calendar. That's where you'll see the event page for the self-initiation. And then please be mindful of taking notice of the important notices at the end of the page for further understanding and guidance about participation in the self-initiation. Do Kim Tien Khazin Chinda Chukji Betari Nishu Zawula Chongsharwa. Dedene Dr. Wu Dingming Khazin Chinda Thambi Betari Chupshila Chongsha. Do Kim Tien Tang Dr. Wu Dingming Nigi Chade Tungmen Tang. Dene Tsedan Temba John Stevens Ani Leba Kense Nane. There are some me jignibar zone ani ta jig thapshi mevers oneda kana risha ani John Stevens ki choti thungmen nas. Prayer requests today for those who have recently passed include prayers for Do Kim Tien, who passed away on November 29th, and then Dr. Wu Dingming, who passed away on the 14th of January. Please keep Do Kim Tien and Dr. Wu Dingming in your prayers and dedications. May they and all others who have recently passed away be free from all suffering and purified of all negative karma accumulated since beginningless times. May they be reborn with all precious freedoms and endowments. May they meet the Dharma and a qualified guru and quickly achieve liberation and enlightenment. And then prayers requested for those who are still with us include prayers for John Stevens, who is suffering from brain cancer and is no longer responding to treatment. So please keep John Stevens in your prayers and dedications. Along with John, may all sentient beings be free from all obstacles, hardship, and negative karma. May their wishes and prayers be fulfilled. May they be guided by the blessings of the three jewels, and may they experience everlasting peace and happiness.
So we will do first Avalokiteshvara salutation, recitation, dedication, and then followed by Medicine Buddha salutation, recitation, and dedication. Chadong Kolo Yobe, Yevo Don, Jendong, Kewa Sangbe, Sangye Don, Kala Kande, Dela, Dedem, Jumba Jenrez, Tanze, and Omani Peme Hong, Omani Peme Hong. Omane Beme Hong Ring, Gawandi, Yodo da chere sewan rubjo ne rowa chiya de sala ge ba sho toje gong la nyombe jomden de chanzang tebe ngin du dong e se do so ne se sangye mengye la bin chanze de om namo bhagavate begaze guru bendo ya tabaranza ya tadangada ya arahate samya sambuddha ya te om begaze begaze ma begaze begaze raja samukade so te dom begaze begaze ma begaze te dom begaze begaze ma begaze begaze raja samukade so wa gyawa di nyodo da membe yebon dojo ne dowa ji te sala gambara sho page 3 Lode Gyaltsen Vedron Bega Den Kyasan Pongwe Chedo Memba Shen Tenpa Zin La Wando Ji Tanyen Jogun Gyola Sowan De page 5 Mawan Dame Gunyen Dongwa Den Kangri Jongso Nyenda Seze Wa Jamgun Gyawa Nyewa Yapse Tangzon Dinjen Mawe Sheba Zu Dinjen Chewe Yingguan Zebe Sheje Nigun Changju Dende Go Longdo Tamje Bebe Be Deja Gyaltsen Gundo Shabden Sho Tesan Guangdang Jeze Zongbe Ze Yongzhou Yure Tube Nyab Longri Deje Nube Beden Ba Tubden Kangri Tangbo Donang Komen Zeba Namda Gun Dendang Ruwe Pende Jungwe She Pendo Jume Chebe Til Kesan Deje Dendo Shabden Sho Jeze Lame Tuge Melanda Kesan Deje Dendang Zang Chozhong dozo zhidong dongba ye cheda menbe dungu lundu shu page 9 Rangja shingen gongbo zeba men zodo namje geyun zhoma zhu zhizo ziye lazo tamje taden mishi choge ngudu zhu tubden chedang losan gyawa shiru tenpan zinbe beiyun je tajun duje gyungui Yangzhe Ninje Wongbo Shabden Sho Jiden Sunggun Changrang Benben De Denbe Azawa Soso Tab Namda Suden Yangda Langba Ye Losan Genden Bedo Shabden Dezhong Yangzhen Nunzhen Yangbe Shen Samzhu Namzhu Changzhen Junbe Gongzhong Shila Songzhu Debe De Denbe Ngata Chenpo Chebe Dongang Gowa Bojo De Zhenbe Rilan Siwe Bongzha Zhenbe Denden Leshe Zhangzha Zhu Keizhu Xinyin Chenpo Shabden Kebe Langdo Gushe Zeta Zhe Zhenbe Chara Nizho Sangzhen Deje Rigun Yishe No Shumden Xinyin Chenpo Shabden Tesang Rulang Zhuwe Dende Je Menzhong Tajue Zangme Si Labjin Zidin Dende Beshe Wa Tuden Xinyin Chenpo Shabden Shozhong Gyawa Seje Chenla Dang Tuden Tamjen Songben Sonang 大教拉上大别的，知道轮着说常着生着人不节马节巴南解决节夜晚娘巴，光的广东排外说当年大瓦人不节马节巴南解决节夜晚娘巴。光的广东排外说沙西北京主节面到长热让零些年的年巴。 上界行动面对为我，如果难道行了，就把说抗日绕为国为新港所平等台湾马路，现在是我定睛要做，下边谁的把多点有些一当国着让那忙的，你要大要面叫我滚到养到浪漫的这边世界表了。 大道南街，原来让做年多节常见过把牛多。